What's up, everybody? Back with another Bible study. Today we're going to be going to 1 Kings chapter 11. Hallelujah. And before we get started, let me preach the gospel. Everyone is going to stand before God for judgment one day. Anyone who hasn't received forgiveness of sins and been made right with God is going to be judged and thrown into the lake of fire for the second death of body and soul, destroyed forever. God requires perfection in order to inherit eternal life, in order to be with Him in His kingdom. None of us are perfect. We all sin and fall short of the glory of God. There's nothing we can do to earn a right standing with God, and that's why Jesus came. Jesus came 2,000 years ago, born as a human, faced temptation just like us, but lived a perfect life. And although He was perfect, didn't deserve any punishment, the death that He died was for us. The death that we deserve in a lake of fire for our sins, He died for us on a cross. So that through Him, that death is taken away from us and we receive eternal life. Through Him, our sin is taken away and we receive His perfection that He lived out. Repent and believe the gospel. The word repent means to have a change of heart or change of mind, to truly turn to God, to turn away from your sins and turn to God. If you believe Jesus died on the cross for your sins and rose 3 days later, and through His sacrifice is offering you eternal life, if you believe that and you truly turn to Him for the forgiveness of your sins and ask Him to forgive you, He will forgive you, He will give you the Holy Spirit, and He will give you eternal life. Repent and believe the gospel. Give your life to Jesus today. And here in 1 Kings chapter 11, we're going to see the downfall of Solomon. The full downfall of Solomon. And it was kind of quick with Solomon. We only got a couple chapters. We got more chapters with David. But we're going to see his downfall and what led to his downfall. And 1 Kings chapter 11. Now King Solomon loved many foreign women, along with the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women. From the nations concerning which Yahuwah had said to the sons of Israel, you shall not associate with them. See, Solomon knew the word. He was the wisest man of all time. He knew the word. He knew God's ways. He knew what God said. But he had so much riches, and he had so much that he had so many women coming at him, he didn't deny them. He didn't stay with God instead of denying women. And let me just continue. From the nations concerning which Yahuwah had said to the sons of Israel, you shall not associate with them, nor shall they associate with you. For they will surely turn your heart away after their gods. And this is what happened. Solomon held fast to these in love. He had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. So, from my understanding, from the interpretation of this, which I didn't get until right now, because I was thinking he had 700 wives, like the 700 included the wives and the princesses. But I believe the 700 wives were princesses. He had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. Basically, he had side chicks, women that weren't his wife. He had 1,000 women. King Solomon had 1,000 women. I don't have one. To be honest, personally, I don't have one. And I'm not seeking one. If God leads me to have one, then I'll have one. But I know that we're in the last days. I know the time is very short. And God has me on a mission. And I feel like with everything else I got going on in my life and with this mission I got, a woman would probably, and some people say it wouldn't, but I believe a wife would definitely slow me down a lot from the mission and everything else. I mean, but mainly the mission for God. And, you know, I'll just leave it at that. The time is short. We're living in the last days, and I really don't have time for that. You know, if we had decades, and if I didn't think that the world was about to end very soon, then sure, I'd probably be married with kids already. But I know what time it is, and God has me doing His work right now. And if He leads me to that, I'll get to that. But Solomon had 1,000 women. That's crazy. But he didn't have 1,000 Israelite women, or 1,000 women from other nations that were serving God. He had 1,000 women mostly from other nations that weren't serving God, that were serving other gods. And God told him, and the word tells him, that doing that will lead him astray to serving other gods, and this is what happened. So we're going to see that here in a minute. I'm going to start back from the beginning real quick. Now Solomon loved many foreign women along with the daughter of Pharaoh, which, you know, the daughter of Pharaoh, which when Solomon built his complex, we saw that in the last couple of chapters. There was the temple, and then Solomon built his his whole temple complex, his whole palace complex. And he had his house, a house for Pharaoh's daughter. And then he had a house of judgment, which is where his throne was. And another house where the weapons were, basically. And a little bit more in the complex. But then he ended up getting many other women. I guess he couldn't turn them down. Now King Solomon loved many foreign women along with the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women. From the nations concerning which Yahuwah had said to the sons of Israel, you shall not associate with them, nor shall they associate with you. God said, don't even associate with them. Because a lot of these other nations were of the Nephilim bloodline. They weren't all fully human. And, you know, from a basic reading of the Bible, you won't understand that. But if you go back to Genesis 6, go back to Numbers chapter, I don't remember the chapter. But, you know, there were giants in the land. And this even goes back to Genesis chapter 1, the serpent seed. But Satan was trying to corrupt the DNA, and this has been going on ever since then. And that's why you see, and, you know, I've been, to be honest, the enemy has been coming against me hard the last couple of days. But I laugh. I praise God. I trust in Him, because I know He delivers me. And, you know, I will show you right now on my phone, but it's on this phone that I'm recording off. You know, the certain stuff. But, you know, it was from the beginning that the DNA was corrupted, and it came about throughout time that the DNA was corrupted. Satan's been trying to corrupt the DNA, trying to corrupt God's plan from the beginning. And it's still going on now. You know, there's still, and probably even more now than back then, there are individuals out here who aren't of the direct human bloodline that God created. that are of a different bloodline, fallen angel and Satan mixed with human bloodline. I mean, I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I don't care if you think don't believe it. It's true. It is true. Research the reptilian thing. Look up on TikTok. Look up on TikTok, because that's popular now. Look up on TikTok, reptilian. And you'll see the celebrities and stuff like, and not only celebrities, but a lot of celebrities. They'll have like they'll blink and it'll be a slit eye. And this goes back to Isaiah chapter 6. And also back to Genesis chapter 1. Isaiah 6. Said he saw a vision of the throne room. He said he saw seraphim above the throne, around the throne of God, and above it. Not meaning that they're above God, but above the throne of God. And seraphim, that word in Hebrew means fiery flying serpent. Serpent. Reptile. And I'm not going to go back to Genesis right now, but I'll just say seed of the woman. Seed of the woman, the seed of the serpent. And I don't necessarily subscribe to the serpent seed doctrine, as many put it out there, but this is going on now. He had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned his heart away. So when Solomon was old, his wives turned his heart away after other gods. His heart was not wholly devoted to Yahuwah his God, as the heart of David his father had been. And it's sad. He got led astray after the other gods. He wasn't fully devoted to God. We need to be fully devoted to God. Fully devoted to God. With all our heart, all our strength, all our soul, all our life. We need to be fully devoted to God. It's a narrow path. And matter of fact, I actually had a dream last night. And I'm not going to go too much into it. I don't remember too much of it. But I remember a narrow path. I'll tell you what I remember. I remember that I was at, it was like some type of event or party. I know a lot of my family was there. A whole lot of my family was there. And I was like I had gone outside of it. And it was like this house. And I had gone outside of it, and there was this road, and there was this house next door. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I remember waking up and like really thinking about it, and God, potentially God saying that it had to do with the narrow path, and so I had gone outside of the party, like party with my family and stuff, and there's a little bit more to. I don't remember too much of it, but I had gone outside of it, and there was this house over to the right, and it was like somebody. I was out toward the road. It was like the house is right here. There's a road right here that led out to this other road. And there's another house over here, and it was like somebody was trying to pull out on this road, but it was like real narrow. It was like the gate. It was like the gates were like real tight, and the person tried to pull out, and they ran into something that, like they could barely pull out. They barely got through the gate. They barely got through the gates to even get out of the house. And I was out. It was like I was out there like trying to guide them, trying to help. Like they were coming toward me, and I was out there like almost like I was trying to guide them or something. And then they went out to this road, and the road was narrow as well. It was a 2-lane road, and the road was real narrow, even though it was a 2-lane road. And it was like they tried to pull out on the road, but they stopped as soon as they started going into the road. And I don't remember the color of this car. I think it may have been like a gray or silver car. And they started pulling out of the road just like slightly. And then this black car came by. And it was like and it's crazy that I'm even remembering this at all. I mean, I guess it's God. They started pulling out on the road slightly. And then this black car came by. And it was like it caught him. And it started dragging them. And the whole road was narrow, but then they pulled out on this like 2-way street. And this black car came by, and it started dragging them a little bit. And then it was like from that point it was almost like I don't remember much. It was almost like an accident scene. I remember it being like an accident scene. But I remember them getting stuck at the gate and barely getting through the gate. And then once they pulled out on the road, they like hesitated. Once they got ready to pull out on the road, and then this black car came and like caught them and like kind of dragged them a little bit. And I never thought I'd bring this up in a video or anything like this. Like, and it's a dream I had last night, and I never thought I'd even remember it again. But it's like when I woke up, this is a dream I had before I woke up. It's like the road is narrow, and it's like they were trying to get through the narrow gate, and they barely made it through the narrow gate, and Jesus is that narrow gate. He is that narrow gate. And then they pulled out on the road, and there's one side or the other. See the kingdom of heaven or hell, righteousness or wickedness. And they hesitated. And then the black car, which represents darkness, came along and started dragging him. And then there was like an accident scene. And I don't know if this had anything to do with me or anybody else, and maybe it's somebody else. Maybe that's why that God led me to bring this up in this study. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it's me. I don't know. But all I know is that we need to walk that straight and narrow path. We need to watch for the enemy coming to try to drag us the other way. And we need to go to the right side. And that's another thing that's interesting, because the car that came, the black car that came and dragged them to the left. But we're supposed to go in the right way. We're supposed to follow the right way. The car dragged them to the left. It's crazy, man. And there are a couple other details to the dream, which I semi-remember, which I'm not going to get into right now, but that's the main part and point that I remember, and maybe it's for me, maybe it's for somebody that's listening and watching this right now. Maybe it's from one of y'all. Maybe that's directly to one of y'all, because that's how God works. That may be for me, and maybe he'll reveal it to me later on, but maybe it's directly for you who are watching this right now. Maybe that message is for you. We need to stay on the straight and narrow path. We need to go straight through the gate. Straight through the gate. No crashes. Jesus is the gate. And stay on a straight and narrow path. That means following him. Truly, with all our heart, having a pure heart, keeping his commandments, walking in his ways, and doing his will, not sinning. Let's follow him with all our heart. Now let's get back into this study. I don't know what led, I do know what led me to that. It's the Holy Spirit that led me to get into that. Because I don't know how I would even remember that from last night, except God bringing it up. So, let's see. All right, I'm going to start back in here in verse 4. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned his heart away after other gods, and his heart was not wholly devoted to Yahuwah his God. We need to be fully devoted to God. Not going astray in any way. As the heart of David his father had been. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, which is another version of Ishtar or Semiramis. Ishtar of the Babylonians, I believe. Semiramis of the Egyptians. This is the wife of Nimrod. This is that god, the same goddess that all these other nations had. Is the wife of Nimrod. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the detestable idol of the Ammonites. And Milcom, I'm not sure of personally. I believe this is probably another version of Nimrod, but I can't say for sure. Solomon did what was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and did not follow Yahuwah fully as David his father had done. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable idol of Moab. I believe that's another version of Nimrod, so it was the next couple that are mentioned. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable idol of Moab, on the mountain which is east of Jerusalem, and for Molech, the detestable idol of the sons of Ammon. And Molech is still, it's all Nimrod, but it's all the same dude, the same sun god that's still worshipped today by Freemasons. This is, because he's coming back as the Antichrist. This is Nimrod. But Molech, I believe his symbol was an owl, and we see this in stuff going on nowadays with Bohemian Grove. You can research that yourself. Bohemian Grove. The world leaders stand in front of a big owl, making sacrifices and doing rituals and stuff. This is real. It's not conspiracy theory. It's real. Just research it yourself. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable idol of Moab. And I talked about in the last study that Solomon was a big part of the beginning of Freemasonry. And the two pillars, I actually watched some videos on it today, and the two pillars, they say one pillar represents the feminine, the other pillar represents the masculine. And I don't know too many details about it, but it's Solomon and what he did in the temple is a big part of the origins of Freemasonry. And I'll just leave it at that. You can research it yourself a little bit if you want. Oh, wow. Well, y'all, I don't even know how well I'll be able to record the rest of the study. The storm just hit, obviously, just now. weather says chance of light rain in the next hour. Well, obviously that's not right. But let me try to continue on with this. The storm is hitting hard right here. Hitting real hard right here. Solomon did what was evil in the sight of Yahuwah and did not follow Yahuwah fully as David his father had done. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable idol of Moab, on the mountain which is east of Jerusalem, and for Molech, the detestable idol of the sons of Ammon. Thus he did for all his foreign wives, who burnt incense and sacrificed to their gods. So Solomon went astray from God and started serving these other gods, which all go back to Nimrod. And Solomon, and at the same time, so I don't know Solomon's heart. I don't know exactly what he knew, but based on what I know now, Solomon probably knew that all these gods were based on Nimrod, and I don't know. Maybe he didn't know that, but he knew that they were. He knew that he was going astray from God, and we can't do that. But maybe he did know. With all his wisdom, maybe he did know that. And he was going after Satan. Now Yahuwah was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned away from Yahuwah, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, and had commanded concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he did not observe what Yahuwah had commanded. Oh man, it's hailing right now too. Wow. Oh my God. And it's been nice the last couple of days. It's just kind of came out of nowhere. I knew it was supposed to rain a little bit tonight, but I didn't expect this. Alright, I'm going to try to continue on with the video, but this is crazy. Wow. Look at this. Look at his hail. Wow. Alright, let me try to continue. Thus he did for all his foreign wives who burnt incense and sacrificed to their gods. Now Yahuwah was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned away from Yahuwah, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, and had commanded concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he did not observe what Yahuwah had commanded. So Yahuwah said to Solomon, because you have done this, and you have not kept my commandments, my covenant, my statutes, which I have commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom from you. I will surely tear the kingdom from you. And I just lost my place, actually. And I will give it to your servant. Nevertheless, I will not do it in your days for the sake of your father David, but I will tear it out of the hand of your son. However, I will not tear it away from you, tear away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to your son for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. So this is actually the beginning, and actually in the beginning, Israel and Judah began to be broken up in the days of Saul. We see in the days of Saul that Israel and Judah are mentioned as separate kingdoms. But it's not until the days after Solomon, when his son Rehoboam took over Judah, that Jeroboam, who we're going to see here in a minute here in this chapter, took over the kingdom of Israel, the northern 10 tribes. And 10 tribes, Rehoboam was left one, Judah, and then the Levites aren't a part of either Israel or Judah, because they had territory in both. And well, went from rain stopping in 15 minutes to thunderstorm for a little while, so hopefully it'll chill out. Let me try to continue this study. Let's see, where am I at? We're in verse 14. Then Yahuwah raised up an adversary to Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was of the royal line of Edom. It came about when David was in Edom, and Joab, the commander of the army, had gone to bury the slain, and had struck down every male in Edom. And this is in parentheses, it says, for Joab and all Israel stayed there 6 months until they had cut off every male in Edom. So that's not in the original translation. Maybe that's added in from outside sources. Perhaps the Book of Jubilees or the Book of Jasher. I don't know. It says that Hadad fled to Egypt, and he and certain Edomites of his father's servants were with him while Hadad was a young boy. Then they arose from Midian and came to Paran, and they took men with them from Paran and came to Egypt, to Pharaoh king of Egypt, who gave him a house and assigned him food and gave him land. Now Hadad found great favor before Pharaoh, so that he gave him in marriage the sister of his own wife, the sister of Taphanes the queen. The sister of Taphanes bore his son Genubath, whom Taphanes weaned in Pharaoh's house. And Genubath was in Pharaoh's house among the sons of Pharaoh. But when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab the commander of his army was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, send me away that I might go to my own country. And Pharaoh said to him, but what have you lacked with me, that behold, you are seeking to go to your own country? And he answered, nothing. Nevertheless, you must surely let me go. And that's how Hadad of the Edomites, and Edom is Esau, that's the descendants of Esau, ended up coming against Solomon. He escaped from Joab and David to Egypt and came back after Solomon, because it was all a part of God's plan, because he knew Solomon was going to sin against him. God also raised up another adversary to him, Rezin, the son of Eliada, who had fled from his lord Hadadezer, the king of Zobah. He gathered men to himself and became a leader of a marauding band. After David slew them of Zobah, then they went to Damascus and stayed there, and reigned in Damascus. He was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon. Along with the evil that Hadad did, he abhorred Israel and reigned over Aram, which is Syria. Then Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephraimite of Zeradah, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow, also rebelled against the king. So Jeroboam rebelled against Solomon. And he was an Ephraimite. And Ephraim is often referenced in the prophets as the northern kingdom. And Jeroboam became the leader of the northern kingdom. Now, this was the reason why he rebelled against King Solomon. Rebelled against the king. Solomon built the Millo and closed up the breach of the city of his father David. And actually, you know what? I gotta step out here real quick, and I just want to play you a short piece of this David Wilkerson sermon while I step out. And
I read in the paper yesterday.